All right, everybody. We are live with another episode of Simply Finance with Shane White. I am pumped today to have Kerry Roberts on the show from Everipe. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. Would you mind giving everyone just a little intro to yourself and to the brand?
Sure thing, sure thing. So I'm Kerry Roberts, co-founder of Everipe, and today we make a superfood smoothie kit that is unique and nothing like we've seen on the planet in that it is shelf stable, and we do that using freeze-dried fruits. So we have pieces of real freeze-dried fruits and a packet of superfoods, and we store in the pantry for months. So you're always just kind of 60 seconds away from a 10 ingredient superfood smoothie. And you just add a cup of ice and a cup of liquid and you're good to go.
Wow. Love it. No,
Thank you.
I found you originally, I think on LinkedIn, and like I think I went to your website and immediately was like, oh, this is just a great idea. Like I feel like I can't tell you how many times me and my wife have been like, we just want a smoothie, and it always is like overly complicated, or we don't have the right fruit, or it's not good fruit, or so love the concept. Would love to know just like, all the way back to the beginning, like where did the idea come from? And like, how did you get started with the whole concept?
Right. So I cannot take full credit for the inception, and the inventor is my co-founder Greg, and it comes sort of born out of exactly what you described. He was making his own smoothies every morning. He was chopping fresh fruits and vegetables. His pantry looked like an apothecary full of superfoods. He had done so much research and experimenting. And, he was finding that it was taking him 20 minutes to make a nutritious smoothie.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's before you even open the fridge and you've got fuzzy raspberries, right? Or you're out of something, or your bananas are bruised. And so he switched to a big tub of powder.
Okay.
They kind of like stir it up, hold your nose, chug it down. And he just felt like he was eating for pure function. And, like most founders, it wasn't necessarily that he started, set out to start a business, but rather he kind of thought there has to be something in this space in between,
Okay.
all
Yeah.
the work that comes with a fresh routine to all of the powders. And when he didn't find anything, he was based in Toronto. This is a few years ago. And now there are some frozen options that get delivered to your home, sort of similar concept. But I thank goodness every day that he was in Canada and didn't have access to that on Google. And so he decided to take a crack at creating something himself. And he partnered with a local chef and a holistic nutritionist. And the brief was, can we create something that has all the sensory joy of seeing real foods and smelling real foods with all the convenience of powder? And then their discovery process led them to freeze drying, which is just that's the technology. It's not a technology, but we call it one that just unlocks all of the benefits that make Everipe really, really innovative.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Would you mind giving everyone a little? I mean, people who don't know the difference between freeze dried and the other ways of
I would love
processing
to.
food, how that works?
I feel like I could spend my whole life giving PSAs for freeze dried because it is, I think, about to explode. So freeze drying is a completely natural technology, same as freezing or putting something in your fridge.
Okay.
And it has these really cool roots in that it was first discovered hundreds of years ago high in the Andes Mountains. The Inca tribes used to actually take potatoes and submerge them in glacial streams, getting that cold, and then lay them out on the rocks, getting the sun to dry them. And then they would basically step on them like kind of like grapes in winemaking to take all of the moisture out.
Oh, wow.
And they were left with these pieces of potato that they would that never went bad. So again, it's like an ancient art that kind of went dormant until rediscovered by NASA and the military in the 1900s. And so it's got this really fascinating roots, but what it does and why it's so magical is that it basically renders fruits and vegetables forever ripe, which is the kind of the inspiration for our name, Everipe.
Okay.
So they'll never go bad, ever.
Ever.
You take the moisture out of something, and in theory, as long as it is, stored properly, your raspberry will last forever, and it maintains 98% of the nutrients, so even more than traditional freezing.
Oh, wow.
Now you've got, it's like all the cellular structures intact, and now you've got this lightweight sculpture of a raspberry that can last forever, still nutritious, and since this is a finance podcast,
Yeah.
operationally, we have this huge benefit in terms of, from an e-commerce and shipping perspective. All of our smoothies are less than 2 ounces. So you take the water out of something, right? And you're really light.
It's like the exact opposite problem of like a beverage company, right?
Totally.
Yeah, it's literally like the flip side.
Exactly. So we have
Love it.
we have the blessing of being able to ship for USPS letter rates.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah, which is the magic in this concept, in addition to all the benefits for the consumer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And then the last thing that makes us feel really good is, right now, I think the latest stat in the US is that 60% of fruits and vegetables end up in landfill. And that
Really?
is just
Is that high?
tragic. Yeah. Between restaurants, what doesn't sell at the supermarket, ugly produce, and what you don't keep up with in your fridge.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
It's really, really tragic. And so, I feel like there's a higher purpose one day for freeze drying.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
to
it makes
really
sense.
help a broken food system.
Wow. So obviously your co-founder kind of maybe had the initial inspiration. Do you remember like the first batch or like the aha moment when you guys figured out that this was something maybe you guys could bring to market?
Yeah. And that's when that's when I entered the business. So once they had discovered the concept could work, and they were starting to play around in a kitchen, a personal kitchen, putting recipes in Tupperware containers. That was when Greg thought, okay, I think I'm onto something, and I'd love some marketing and consumer help. And so we were introduced. This is really early days. There was no brand. There was literally just an idea and Tupperware containers. And that sort of my background was CPG marketing, market research, consumer insights, branding. So I started really just kind of quoting on doing some workshops, running some focus groups. And the more I discovered the opportunity, the idea that, because, e-commerce really didn't exist way back when I was in CPG, but the idea that you could have clean convenience, no sugars, no preservatives in the center of the aisle for retailers, I just could tell he was onto something so big that I asked him to rip up our contract and to take me on. Yeah. And so we complement each other just perfectly, in that he's kind of got the ops, he runs, most of the finance, ingredient sourcing, our manufacturing, and I help with the branding and the messaging and all of that.
Love it. No, that's so cool. I mean, it seems like to me, like I've heard of freeze-dried fruit before this, but it's amazing. Like, how did you guys come up with the smoothie concept? So, I mean, it sounds like you basically figured out like the concept of freeze-dried fruit was something that you could market, it sounds like. And then you were like, but wait, we could make this into like pre-made smoothie in a package type concept. Like, how'd you go from 0 to 1? Because that, I mean, obviously figuring out the freeze-dried fruit sounds like that was a huge hurdle of like, how do we, like, that's like the concept behind the brand, but then like to what you have today, I mean, that's still different, right? So what was like the keys there?
You know what, it's funny that I don't think I've ever shared this part of the story, but like the epiphany moment, that crazy aha was when Greg went to visit his dad in Florida, and his dad's retired and he's living down in Florida. And I think every Sunday, Greg's dad makes his own little cereal, basically combines these cereal in mason jars. And he layers on some oats, and then he'll layer on some seeds, and then he'll layer on some nuts, and then he'll layer on some dried fruit. And he basically puts like Monday to Friday in these mason jars. And Greg was watching him and thought, wait a minute, if I could do that for my smoothie, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with perishable product. So the freeze drying was definitely part of the discovery, but it was important to Greg that he kind of recreate his dad's cereal with fruit, and freeze drying was just such a natural place. So we've kind of backed into this product, and I'd love to say that we had the genius to create something that was designed to be e-commerce, profitable, and
Okay. Yeah.
designed to be really nutritious. But like most founders, it really just kind of starts from one person's problem,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And then you realize, wait, if this could change my morning, I gotta take a crack at sharing this with the world.
Got it. Oh yeah, that's really cool. And then for you, like, you said at the very beginning, like and maybe it's before we started recording, but you said you kind of came up in the CPG world, worked for big CPG and marketing. For you, were like, I'm always curious too for founders, like, you kind of obviously at that point you understand the landscape of what maybe you're getting into, but when you're approached with like this concept, for you, I'm sure that was at a scary moment. Was that like, how did you decide, like, yeah, I'm gonna jump ship from like what I've done my entire career to like go to a startup, like at that, you know what
Right.
I mean? I'm always curious of like how you thought through that, and what finally made you jump. Was it just like the concept, you just loved the idea, or what was it?
I think it's all that, and I was having more fun helping Greg than I was like in my day job helping these
Yes. Okay.
massive brands, right? So every minute that I spent with Greg thinking and tinkering and talking about the consumer, and trying to create, what's our brand going to be, what's it going to stand for, what are we going to call it, every minute I found just so full of joy, that it was an easy decision. And Greg and I are both, very fortunate in that we've got kind of, family that, our spouses kind of can carry the load with to give us the financial freedom to go ahead and just take a shot at this.
Got it. Love that.
Because I really do. It is it's a massive leap.
Yeah.
It's a massive leap. But yeah, I found every minute that I was working for myself, and in service to this brand, and still today, and it's been a couple of years, and it is not easy. I mean, it's not
I'm
easy.
sure.
I mean, I'm still the one, sometimes, putting labels and sweeping the floor and all of it. And there's still something about it that just feels so fun and in the trenches. And I hope I remember this day when,
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you mind giving everyone a little, I would love to go deeper into that. Like, I think for people who've never worked, I'll back up. I worked at two very large corporations before I joined RX. When I joined RX, it's hard to explain to people like the feeling you get for even working for a small company. Just like, to your point, like every time you send out a package, like you're a part of that, and like just so many little things. And I even came in when once RX was, we were about to be acquired, so it was a little later. But for you, could you maybe explain to people just like, I don't know, like what is it that like gets you so excited, that gets you so into waking up and working on Everipe every day that you didn't feel when you were not working for yourself?
Right. Well, I think I think some people are wired for it and some people are not.
Okay.
And well, I'd love to talk in a bit about how like it really is a mental and emotional roller coaster week to week. But the good parts, are that you are steering the ship. You every day are making all the decisions, right? The buck stops with you, and the more work you put in, it's just so cause and effect immediately, compared to some of the brands that you and I probably are used to working on things where somebody has an idea, you call that T equals 0, maybe 18 months later maybe
Yeah.
something's come of it,
Right.
right? But you just get to iterate and try things, and connecting with customers and consumers is like the best. Getting a love letter from a customer is, it's just the kind of thing that on your darkest day, and there are many moments, that just totally just like kicks you in the ass, gets you right back on the treadmill,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you
Okay.
and you turn up the speed, right? Like we got a letter from a nurse, an emergency room nurse during COVID, that said, I used to eat from the vending machines. And now I'm bringing this
Oh,
smoothie to
wow.
work, and I'm more energized, and she's thanking us, and like, I immediately send her free product. Like, you I was just, in
Sure.
tears,
Yeah.
and here, share this with your colleagues, and thank you for what you're doing. But we'll get stuff like that, and you just don't get that from a big CPG company or a big company of any sort, where you're like, feel like you're in people's kitchens and talking to them about the difference you're making.
It's probably, yeah. I mean, I know the first time I saw, or actually, at RX, when you start, you spend not anymore. We used to spend everyone that started, no matter if you were coming in to be the CFO or coming in to be whatever entry level anything. You spent the first 2 weeks in customer service, like actually
Yeah.
answering the phones, emailing people. And one of the powerful things of that was, like, I mean, you're actually talking to consumers, especially me, a finance person at two large corporations before that. I was miles away from our customers.
Right.
So I can resonate with that. I mean, it's a powerful thing, I'm sure, like for you, putting all of this time and energy and work to then gets all the way to a shelf, someone buys it, tries it, and like changes their really their wellness. That's pretty powerful. It's pretty cool.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. Would love to also know, so like one of the things that I always find interesting is like the first few batches. Like obviously, like the product you have now wasn't number one. Do you obviously, and you said like you came in after there were already some like, small samples going, but do you remember like the very first few iterations, and how far has it come since then?
Yeah, yeah, and it's wildly different from then that it is now. And I don't know who I was listening to, but one of the founders, farther ahead than me, once said, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you didn't, you
Sure.
didn't test and fail. Um, but we started out in a really, very different place. We started out really sophisticated. We were experimenting with, we were over engineered,
Okay.
completely over engineered, which works great if you're going to make it in the kitchen and sell it at a farmer's market. That works.
Yeah.
If you want to find a manufacturing partner, if you want to sell it to, you know, if you want to sell it beyond California and New York, which is our big purpose, is to really try to scale to the point where we can be affordable for the average family
Oh,
to,
love that.
serve this. So, you know, in order to do that, I think that there are some financial realities. So we had to go from, 14 100% organic bespoke ingredients down to 8 or 9. And we're still really sophisticated from a nutrition standpoint. We've got things like turmeric and bee pollen and beetroot powder and hemp. And we've got really, really great. I don't want to take anything away from our nutrition credentials, but we realized, first and foremost, for any food founder, if it doesn't taste good enough to buy again, you don't have a business. You just
Yeah, that's
don't
so
have a
true.
business, right? Um, and so for us, it was like, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to create fruit forward smoothies that taste amazing. And then we want to sneak in the nutrition.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's so many other, you can make a smoothie at home that is the most nutritious thing, and maybe you can tolerate it. And maybe you're going to do that from January 1st to January 18th.
Yeah.
But like I'm
That's
sure
great.
I
That's a good
didn't,
point.
yeah, exactly. I'm positive I didn't make this up, but we keep saying like clean and craveable. Like that's what we want to
Oh,
be: clean, convenient, and craveable. Those are like our 3 C's. If we can do that, and so we pivoted to a far more approachable. I know it's a podcast, but we've got like
no, it looks great.
strawberry
We'll be on
banana.
YouTube too, so that looks good.
Oh, good. Okay. We even like created like a chocolate and
Oh,
banana. Um,
oh, that looks
and they're
delicious. That's my right
super
up my alley.
nutritious.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, I'll definitely send some your way after this. But
Oh, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So, I think once we realized, okay, number one, taste first. Number two, if we can do that, we can help so many more people.
Yeah.
There are thousands of brands creating in the niche wellness space, and many of them are incredible. We're not that. We are healthy for anyone. we help a mom whose kid will only eat chicken nuggets 7 days a week, and she puts down a chocolate superfood smoothie with hemp hearts and cocoa and flax. Like, if we can help that mom feel like a better mom, that's the win.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we've really changed our whole tactic in terms of who we were going after and what that product needed to do for them.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, you guys definitely have a product that, you could in some parts trick kids into think, what I mean? They don't know they're eating something or drinking something healthy for, where a lot of brands, it's a huge struggle is trying to like get healthy food into, especially the younger demographics. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, yeah. And we've got case studies from everybody in terms of, like, we had a young man who was trying to get his dad to just eat healthy, and like, this is the thing that did it. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, we really do run the gamut. And as a marketer, some of the hard part is like, okay, but who's our bullseye?
Yeah.
Who are we really
Who
going?
would you say your bullseye is then today?
When we launched this product at the very beginning, we would have said this is a urban millennial educated, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us fall back on that. And I'm a big believer in launch, learn, listen. Your consumer is going to tell you who they are.
Mm,
You don't have a brand until the market tells you you have a brand. And so
okay.
I think my market research background just constantly has me digging for data and listening. And so our consumer is definitely a suburban woman. She's older than we thought. She's probably trying to fight the clock and looking for easy. She's busy. She, is looking for an easy routine that she can stick to. She's overwhelmed with a diet culture that has like a new devil every 7 to 8 years.
Yes.
I mean, who knows? I mean, that's one of the things I'm most passionate about is, I've been around long enough to watch the low fat, the high sugar, the South Beach, and now it's keto. And I don't begrudge any of it. We just aren't playing there. We're playing in just real plants.
Love
That's
that.
it.
Yeah.
If you could, we have about as much sugar as an apple. And if the American diet included more apples, we'd all be in a better place. So we're
Isn't
kind of
that true?
in that space.
Yeah. No, actually, I saw it on your website. You guys did a good job of like framing that on the website of just like going through the diet fads. I know like that's something is so true. Just like how it seems like everywhere you turn, something else is bad. And like, what do you trust? What do you believe? But like, that's true. If you just go back to like the roots of even just fruit, right? Like, if people ate more fruit instead of other things, most of the time, that's probably a way healthier option.
Yeah, there's a lot of nutrients. There's a lot of fiber. We're all terrified of sugar right now. There's something called fruit fear.
Oh, really? Is that a
But
thing? Fruit
yeah,
fear? I hadn't
yeah,
heard that.
yeah. But I have to say, fruit is not the problem in the American diet.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
not.
Right. No, I would have
Right?
to agree, right?
French
Very
fries,
few
donuts.
people
I
are
mean, there's
probably
a
eating
thousand other
way too much
things.
fruit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly,
That no, it
exactly.
makes a
So
ton of sense.
we just kind of want to cut through all that and make it simple for people. And you
Right.
really do feel good. Like that. That's the other thing is I wish, myself included, I wish we gave ourselves more space to listen to our bodies right after we put something in it. How do you
Sure.
feel when you go through the drive-through? Half an hour later, how do you feel? You
Yeah.
go through the drive-through, and how do you feel when you eat a salad or blend a smoothie?
Right. Well, and I think that's what was interesting too when I found your guys' brand was I was like, I think sometimes that's one of the easiest ways people tend to eat unhealthy is just like it's not convenient enough, right? And there's
Yeah.
lots of brands that are trying to make it convenient, but I don't know. I would pick a smoothie over a lot of things if I was in a crunch and needed to eat something quick. And to be honest, like the struggle I always have is time, and it's a mess.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that's like the thing. Like if it's not the weekend, I honestly I don't feel like getting like the blender out and like cutting everything up and mixing it. But having like a scoop to put in a shaker and like get out and get going on whatever I'm doing or go back to my desk, like that's a no brainer.
Right. Exactly.
Love it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you guys have been in business can you remind me when you guys like first launched and how long it's been?
We launched some of those earlier over-engineered prototypes in
Yeah.
2019.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep. And then this sort of expression of the product we just launched in 2020.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
really
it.
new,
So new.
really new.
So for you guys, obviously, like I said, this is a little bit finance focused. So for you, I mean, I immediately, whenever I talk to brands, I'm always thinking like P&L angle, just because that's where I live. I live in P&Ls. So for you guys, knowing how light it is, how efficient it is, doesn't really affect this question that I'm about to ask. But for you guys, how did you think through? And I think it's interesting because it feels like every founder has a slightly different way of thinking about it. How did you guys think about bootstrapping versus raising capital? And just like, have you guys gone through that process of, are you self-funding it? Are you guys looking for investors? All that.
Great. Well, we have been bootstrapped. We are bootstrapped today.
Love it.
And you know, I think that while that road is really, really, it's not for the faint of heart to be bootstrapped. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to. We are constantly turning down opportunities. Like I said, like, you know, I'm not kidding. I'm putting labels on. I'm sweeping the floor. I'm answering consumer emails. My phone is our chat bot on our website. I
Oh,
kid you
wow.
not.
Really?
Yeah, like middle of dinner with my family, I'm like chatting a consumer. I mean, we are stretching every dollar right now.
Okay.
And the benefit to me, the benefit of that is we we have this magnifying glass on what moves the needle all the time.
Okay.
We are, I think, at this point now, we have been, you know, asking ourselves the question, is this a scalable business? Is this a scalable business? And, you know, a few
Right.
things you need to, the formula for that is, you know, will customers buy it? Will they come back again? Will they come back again? I mean, that's the sort of like one number that we live and die by, our
Yeah.
repeat numbers. We keep iterating our production. Every run gets better. And finally, in the last half of last year, last quarter even, we were finally getting repeat numbers that blew away anything that I'd seen in my CPG career.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's kind of like
That's great.
now we've got something, right? Like,
Yeah. Okay.
okay, so you know, 2 years of slugging it out, managing every dollar really, really carefully and in a disciplined way. Now we're going to be, you know, raising our seed round, and you know, I feel like hand on heart now that I can tell an investor, A, we will steward that investment as carefully as we have our own,
Okay. Yeah.
because we've done it. We're going to be incredibly, you know, careful, but also, you know, seeing our growth. We couldn't keep up with demand in January, and we actually sold out. We're just coming back online.
Oh, congrats. I mean,
Well,
you
yeah,
know, out of all the problems in the world, that's probably a
I
better
know.
one. Yeah. Not the
Exactly.
best, but better.
Exactly. It is not, it's what you want until it happens to you. And then you realize like, oh God, all these sales that we, you know, we're turning away business, which is
Yes.
not something you ever want to do. But now I feel like we're on that launch pad, and I could, you know, I feel like I could take money from my mother. That's kind of like,
Yeah,
that's
no, it
where we're
makes
at,
sense.
is like, we're
Okay.
not going to take on funding until we would take money from our own mothers. And we're there now.
Got it.
So the next few months will see us look for funding.
Okay. Love that. So what I mean, are you guys thinking about a seed round as like, are there things that's going to unlock? Is there like, you know, is it future growth? Is it just inventory? Like, what are the things for the listeners? Like, because I think that this is a really cool story. Like, I mean, I think if you can bootstrap, obviously, I mean, I'm a big proponent for that. I'm also maybe a little more, I don't know, financially, I would, if I'm in any business endeavor, I like to be a little more conservative. So like, if you can bootstrap it, obviously, you know, you control your destiny a little more. Um, but how did you guys get to the point where you and your co-founder were like, okay, like now is that time that we would accept money from our mothers, or like, what does that unlock for you guys?
The first part of your question I'll answer first. So it was that sustained repeat. So consumer appetite coming back, month over month growth for sure. Selling out doesn't help that, but it
Yeah,
certainly
sure.
does help in terms of, it tells a great demand story, not a great revenue story. And then knowing that, our manufacturing partner was starting to produce it really consistently. So, can we scale, and build that consumer demand? So that answers sort of the first part of your question in that, okay, now we can go and build this into something big. And, it's really just going to unlock for us the marketing engine that we need to grow.
Yeah.
We've got 5 flavors today, because we listen to our consumers so much. We know exactly where they want us to go next. We definitely have an innovation pipeline. I see the potential for what we are doing. And this is one of the things that gets me really jazzed up and excited. So talking about freeze drying, we're a smoothie company today, but I see the potential for this to be a platform of recipes facilitated by freeze drying. So you think about just combining other fruits and vegetables into recipes. It could easily extend into soups and other categories where we're sort of, just clean food in your pantry that you blend up.
Love that.
Yeah. So I think there is.
I mean, even like your initial thing you brought up of like how this whole concept came about. I mean, that was potatoes, right? So you're saying it could be vegetables and other things that are freeze dried that become part of your staple.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a massive opportunity, I think. And we're learning all the time about combining. We've got a lot of ideas in the hopper in terms of like long-term innovation. And we're at the point now where we're choking our own growth.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you
Continuing
need to grow like you need the money or you need the head count, whatever it may be, just to grow faster. Got it.
Exactly.
Love that. Do you, this one here, the next question is I see this. I mean, my light bulbs are going off even for you guys, just like how many things I can think of in our kitchen now that I can see Everipe being on the label, which is exciting to think about. Why do you think? And you've worked in big CPG. Why do you think big CPG hasn't tried to go? I love this question. Haven't gone down this route before to try to make something similar.
It is such a good question. I if I knew the answer, I probably wouldn't have spent the last 2 years dedicating my life to build this company. But I mean, think about everything in our food system right now, traveling around the country and the globe in heavy glass jars with water.
Yeah. Oh, a good
right?
point.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many categories. I mean, think of like a pasta sauce. Anybody who is willing to just put a little bit of DIY, right, into throwing, if we could just as easily create a pasta sauce out of this, and you add your water, blend it up, add boiling water, blend it up. There's a massive opportunity to change the retail. And so, I feel like we're just in the starting gates with all of this. And
I would agree.
So excited. Yeah.
That is exciting. I mean, so like, because right where my head goes right away, I mean, I've spent most of my career in e-commerce. So that's just like, I was at walmart.com. So I've been on both sides of the fence of how e-commerce has just evolved over the last decade. It's been crazy. For you guys, we call it RX, products that are really good for e-com, we call high ring, which is just for every pack that is shipped to Amazon, you can, there's basically less air than there is product, right? And it's light. If the lighter even is like another variable that makes it better, but really like the most amount of space you can make up of product that actually has dollars attached to it versus air is the higher the ring. For you guys right away, I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, this is like, it's almost like shipping space food. Like, it's like basically it's like you said, it's so light and it's perfect for e-commerce. Has that been a huge avenue for you guys in these first few years of just getting on Amazon or getting online in general and growing that way?
That is how we are kind of pitching our story in terms of learning, owning that customer. So right now we're only in 3 channels. We're only on our own website. We're only on Amazon, and we're only on Walmart.com.
Got it. Okay.
Those are so, it just has let us control our own growth. I mean, you and I both know the P&L goes a totally different direction once you get into retail.
Yeah.
We are readying our unit economics right now to be prepared for that, because you don't get to a big meaningful household brand without being in every grocery store. We know that needs to be a part of our story.
Yeah.
But right now, we get to build the brand online. We get to take advantage and exploit our shipping efficiencies. And there's just we're still so nascent.
Yeah.
There's a ton of room to grow in e-commerce, but before we need to think about, slicing up the pie all the ways that retail asks you to.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that until I joined the company, obviously RX, but getting into retail is wild. I mean, it's a wholly different world. I mean, the way you guys did it though is so smart. I mean, getting online and growing a user base online, you get to control so much. You get to also learn so much more about your consumer. Like you
Right.
don't get that access once you're in stores. And to your point, from like a financial perspective, I mean, if you do it right, e-commerce can be, your most profitable channel. So that's
Right.
exciting to hear you guys are doing it that way.
And we're such data nerds that we are like our path, we see it as a very deliberate path one day to retail. So we've got a long view to retail. We're constantly watching, where are our consumers coming from? Are they, suburban? Are they urban? Are they in the South because it's hot? Are they in the Northeast? Are they? And so, for us, it's like kind of understanding, where are those pockets of real consumer demand? Can we nurture those? Can we go in, fuel some marketing, like, hypercharge a region, and then, be able to take a story into a retailer that says, okay, we've already got a pocket of demand here.
Yeah.
Because we know there's no such thing as like field of dreams retail, right? You don't put something on a shelf and they come. It just doesn't, right?
Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. As
What's
much as
that
we all
saying? They say it's easier to get stuff on the shelf than get it off the shelf. Like it's like the
exactly.
key is to sell it, keep it moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where so many founders, I think they're so focused on like building those doors that where, the stories that I feel are most heartbreaking is when, the bottom falls out because the velocity just isn't there.
Yeah.
And so we are, I wouldn't say reluctant, but we're going to be really careful about nurturing a story around particular target retails. We know exactly who we'd like to go to first and why. And, if we could write our own story, it would be that we're taking in a category story already that says, here's where you should put us, here's why, and here's who she is that's coming in and what else she's buying and all of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's super smart. The one thing I feel like I hear a lot of founders say too, they're worried about getting in retail quick, which you just kind of hit on. But the one thing that's interesting that I've started to learn, and you see it, and it sounds like you guys are doing this exact same thing, is if you're able to build a business online and then go into retail, you also
Right.
have the power of like, well, we have a business online already. Like we don't need to be in those stores. So you have a lot more leverage than if it's the other way around, where you need the stores to get, the sales you need to make either shareholders happy or to keep your bottom line happy. So it's really interesting because I mean that there's not a ton of brands that have done it that way, and most of them I've heard it's always worked out in the best in the end. So
Right.
that's
And it's
exciting.
easy for me to sound really smart, but really it's our shipping efficiencies that make it a no-brainer for us.
Sure.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Right.
want to, I'm definitely not a PhD in early stage brand, but if I had a beverage, you would need to be,
Yeah.
if I had
Yeah.
something really heavy to ship and reaching my customers was expensive, I would need that retail. So
Right.
it really is.
It's so true. Yeah. It really does depend on, on the economics of the product you sell for sure. 100%.
Right. Right.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, you guys are doing some really cool stuff. Obviously, you kind of alluded to there being, a whole ideas, a whole, path for innovation in the future. And I know you guys are early, but has there been any, what has been, I guess maybe running out of inventory is a good example, but what have been some of the like, what's like the one major hurdle early on in this company's life that you look back on already? You feel like you've learned a ton that the audience could, learn something from if they're thinking about starting a company.
Oh gosh, there's so many of those. One of the things that we did that again, I don't, you don't regret any failure if you learn from it, right?
Right.
So our newest expression of our products and thinking about helping more Americans and coming out with products that are a little more fruit forward and far more delicious was really inspired by an opportunistic meeting with a Walmart executive that led to a test in store at Walmart. We completely redesigned our whole product to take advantage of that opportunity.
Oh, wow.
And so, thank goodness it happened, because, I might still be sitting here trying to manage that 15 ingredient smoothie with, really, really, sophisticated ingredients. But so we had a chance meeting with a VP at Walmart that
Oh,
happened at a
wow.
conference. Yeah. And it was such validation in the concept when this person turned the package over, looked at the back, read the ingredients, saw like no sugar, no preservatives, and said, we need to have something like this. And within 5 minutes at that conference, he had set up a meeting for us to come to Bentonville
Oh,
and
wow.
pitch. And that
And
just
that's a
doesn't
big deal.
happen. Yeah,
No, it does not.
it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And so that's one of like 100 moments where I was thinking like, aha, this is our big break. This is it. This is, and off we go.
I'm sure
And there's,
leaving that
yeah,
moment, you were probably on high,
totally.
just like couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So, we sprint, we completely redesign our packaging, make it a little more retail friendly. We redesign all our ingredients, like it's a brand new product when we come, skidding onto retail stores in Walmart January or end of January, February 2020, and COVID.
Yes.
And
Lovely.
so it's really kind of a twofold. We're not in Walmart anymore. We had
Okay.
a wonderful relationship with our buyer. She was so collaborative. She loved what we were doing. She desperately wanted it to work. Between COVID shutting down any discovery of new ideas in store,
Yeah.
and the price point that we just could not hit today, a price point that makes this doable for a Walmart shopper. And
Yeah, it's tough.
so we knew, we knew going in that this, retailer wouldn't have been our first choice. But when Walmart knocks on your door, you definitely don't say no. And so, I would say that I hate to even call it a failure. That experiment, really, we wouldn't have the iteration, we wouldn't have the expression of our product that we did if we didn't have that door open for us. So, thank goodness every day for that chance meeting. And it really helped us understand, maybe who we aren't yet ready for, maybe what price we need to be while we scale. So the idea of, staying premium, I hate that word, but basically, we have to make money.
Yeah.
We have to make
Right.
money. So our unit economics have to be such that we won't lose sight of the long-term goal, which is we want to be right for that Walmart buyer one day as we scale and grow, and we do want to relax our prices.
Got it. Yes.
So the vision is that, but yeah, it was a poor timing, and too early for us to be in Walmart.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those, I mean, I'll honestly like once in a lifetime situations too, like launching in Walmart right before COVID. Like, I mean, that's one
Yeah.
piece of it. Yeah. What is like on the flip side? It sounds like you guys had a great relationship with the buyer, which is key. And what didn't sound like you guys like, the bottom fell out like you talked about where you like burn the relationship and burn the opportunity in the future. So for people listening, it sounds like this is I haven't really talked to a founder who's gone through this. So it sounds like there's definitely an open door in the future if pricing can be in the right place because the buyers love the product. At the end of the day, if the food is good, that's like step one.
Right. And I feel like, what's really surprised me about our buyer and the buying team that we were working with is that they really do have the consumer and the shopper's best interest at heart. And they really do. And I think most grocery buyers, they really do want to do the right thing for
Hmm.
consumers. And we all know that a lot of what we've been eating for the past several decades is not helping our health. And so, it was with the very best of intentions, right from the top of the organization down and through with our buyer. And the door was left wide open. As you guys grow, we will figure this out.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
this is probably, we'll see you again. This is not goodbye. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but to that point earlier, that they immediately recognized, like, wait a minute, like fruits in the center of store, fresh fruits in the center of store, that there's a great opportunity there for sure.
Oh yeah. Especially I mean, at Walmart, to your point, that's going to be like the probably eventually the key retailer to hitting those, those median households of trying to make it attainable for every family in America, right?
Right. But we'll have to start with the Publix and the Wegmans and the
Yeah.
Whole Foods, and work our way there to be a mainstream household brand
And
one
and
day.
those retailers too. I mean, there's so many lessons learned, I'm sure. You know what I mean, by each of those. So the product, who knows what the product will look like by the time you go back to Walmart. That's a
Exactly.
great story though. I mean, the great way to show that like there's multiple ways to even go after the biggest retailers. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and a little wee brand, can
Yeah.
they're making time and space for that. So, as long as the math works and you think your consumer, your brand, is a right fit for a value-driven consumer, it's not a bad place to play, not a bad
No.
place to try, because the
Yeah.
volume is there.
Yeah, right. Definitely. The volume's definitely there. Um, well, this first of all has been great. The kind of the ending section I like to go into is the ones I ask every founder, and this is a little bit more like your day in and day out. First one is question is I always lead with book, but if you're not a reader, whether it's a podcast, source of knowledge, whatever it may be, what is like the most suggested book, again, source of knowledge, whatever it is, that you would suggest to the audience?
Well, for an early stage founder, there's a ton of like theoretical business books, and I've read a lot of them. The book that was most practical for us, and certainly if you don't have any food or CPG business, and you might have heard of this one, there's a book called Ramping Your CPG Brand by Dr. James Richardson.
Never heard of that.
And please tag him. It is the book that every single food founder should read.
Really? Okay.
It is the most honest book about what you're in for, what not to chase, and how to stay the course. It's a fantastic book.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna get it. I'm gonna
And
find it
he's
on
very
Amazon after this and buy
accessible.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for anyone listening, so Dr. James Richardson, he's very accessible on LinkedIn. He
Oh,
gives
okay.
podcasts and webinars, and he's very reachable. And he comes from a research and data background, so he's just got like reams of experience based on real data of proven methods for growth.
Got it. Oh, that's awesome. Great advice. Thank you very much. I'll definitely share that one out in the show notes. Um, this one I love. So, because I've changed what I do here so many times, but for you, obviously, you have a million different things going on. You're running a business, you have a family, there's a million things. What do you use to plan goals, to handle daily tasks? Is it just pen and paper? Is it an app? Like, what's your thing that like helps you just stay organized and get shit done?
I'm embarrassed to say this, but like I am like a list maker every day. Like, and I'm fastidious. There's got to be a box. I'm
Okay.
really happy when I can find a red pen so that the tick in the box is a different color. It says a lot about me, but I love I love a good to-do list, and I love to do it first thing in the morning. And it's kind of a mix of like personal, business. It's just like anything that's running through my mind. And nothing makes me happier than when I tick every box in a day.
Love it. I'm the same way. No, I think it's funny. Every founder that I ask this question to has most of them who do the pen and paper things have the exact same reaction. But I would say, this is a rough number. I bet 90% of the people I've asked have said it's pen and paper.
Oh,
So
good. I'm not alone.
yeah, no, you're definitely not alone. I agree. That's what I do. Yesterday was one of those days where I got everything on my list done and it was like, whoa,
It's
can I
rare,
actually like
right?
sit down for a minute at the end of the day and relax? I got everything done.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because when I get to the end of my list, it's jarring. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what do I do now? I'm not
Yeah.
even,
You're like,
I
wait a
don't
minute.
like, yeah,
Or
yeah,
you're worried that like there's something really important that didn't make it on the list that you're like, what did I not write down that I know I needed to do today? You know what I mean?
100%, 100%. Yeah,
That is so funny.
yeah.
The very last question, because I know we're running out of time here, and the most important is how can people follow along with your journey? How can people follow along with the brand and get involved?
That is such a kind and generous question. Thank you so
Of
much for
course, yeah,
that.
gotta plug Everipe.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So if you want to check us out, and come and give us a try, we have a variety pack. We don't ask for a subscription, which is, and
Okay.
again, we did that in terms of the finance and the economics, but again, another way that we leverage our costs
Yeah.
for shipping is that we don't ask you to marry us. You can date us. You can try our variety pack. You can come back as much as you want. So we're not a subscription smoothie. So everripe.com. Follow us. We're most active on Instagram in terms of our journey, and we've got a newsletter and a blog and all of that
Nice.
great stuff. And we let people kind of see behind the curtain as much as we can, and we share the good and we share the bad. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and share lessons as I go and kind of think of them. So it's Kerry Roberts, Kerry, and I welcome any new connections there for sure. And I'm always happy to help a new founder as well. I know
Awesome.
I'm kind of in this space with some big CPG experience, and I'm if I have the time, I always love to help people at the very beginning.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I will add all of that to the show notes so everyone can find it. And thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. This
I'm
is
so
fun.
glad you reached out. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it.
This is a great way to kick off the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Happy
I'm
Friday,
almost on my
everybody.
to-do list.
There we go. Finish off the final few things and you're done.
Exactly.
Awesome. All
Exactly.
right. Well, thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it.
Great to talk with you.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.